Turning now to our special report. This is a question that is actually facing both leading candidates for president right now. It's an issue that's trailed many politicians and can be dealt with fairly as an objective discussion or used as a cudgel for a kind of discrimination. The issue is age. As two senior citizens eye the White House, and the incumbent president even jokes he doesn't like saying the word 80.
I can't even say the age I'm going to be. I can't even get it out of my mouth. I can't. I mean, I swear to God, it's like, no.
The president there talking to Jonathan Capehart and discussing his recent birthday and age. Well, Biden has not officially declared that he's running for re-election, but he signaled plans to run, and a victory would make him 86 years old at the end of a second term. He's now the oldest serving president, but not by much. Trump was 74 and is running again already. Reagan was 77 when he left office, facing some questions about his health, many remember. And back in even earlier eras when there was lower life expectancy and certainly less advanced health care, you had Eisenhower, Jackson, 70, 69. There's a tradition of seniors running the government. Consider just this recent snapshot where you look at the ages at the most recent presidential cycle. The president, 9 years over the traditional retirement age, and both parties led by people nearing 80. Under congressional tradition and some rules, seniority is rewarded. The people running committees are usually the most senior member. That's pretty automatic. The Senate position that's fourth in line for the presidency is determined by picking the longest serving member of that body. And as for McConnell and Pelosi, which we showed you, well, they amassed power over time, but they won their colleagues' votes to get those posts. And then there's the context. A healthy, active 80 doesn't stand out much if the people voting, like in those races, are in their 70s. Age can feel relative, and many senators are in their 70s, including the most powerful ones with seniority, as mentioned. The average age in the Senate right now is 64. The House is at 58, still higher than many workplaces. And let's be clear, because I want to really get into this with you. Discriminating against people based on their age is wrong and illegal for employers. But many politicians have faced this before, Trump or Biden, sometimes with aplomb. And super Democrat James Carville recently said, when it comes to Biden, you got to face this head on in politics.
I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit for political purposes my opponent's youth and inexperience.
Well, I think age is very, wisdom comes from age, experience, and intelligence. And if you have some of each.
The age issue is not going to go away. But I think the question of his age does loom on people's minds, and it looms on the minds of Democrats. And I just think it's something you cannot wish away. It's going to be there. It's going to be a factor.
Nancy Pelosi agrees, saying politically age is not positive for Biden, but it's relative. Polling backs are up. Most Democrats already say they want an alternative to Biden. Only 37% think he should seek another term. Democratic leaders also pointing to age as the reason they want options. Or you can see the proof this week. The first major candidate to jump in the race, other than Trump and Biden, is Republican Nikki Haley, and she's attacking them on the age question. She's calling to retire permanent politicians and putting out the idea of a, quote, mental competency test, which it's her idea, she says would basically apply to Trump and Biden, people over 75. Now, that's the politics. Politics includes noise. What about the facts? Is this even a legit question? Biden says it is.
I think it's a legitimate thing to be concerned about anyone's age, including mine. I think that's totally legitimate. I could get a disease tomorrow. I could, drop dead tomorrow.
And that's him. Then there are concerns about whether government is getting less reflective of society, questions about whether that impacts democracy, or whether it's the wrong thing to focus on. And members of the Biden administration, they say, of course, this is relevant, but they also defend his record.
Generational arguments can be powerful. As you said, I've used them myself. The most powerful argument of all is results. You can't argue with a straight face that it isn't a good thing that we have had 12 million jobs created under this president.
Secretary Buttigieg, he's pretty young for the cabinet, but that defense is also interesting because he's also someone who formally oversees a regulated field which has age limits. There are industries that mandate retirement ages. Pilots cannot fly commercial after 65. And we checked. Buttigieg stands by that policy as transportation secretary, noting the retirement age is done for safety. He's not going to be on board with anything that compromises safety. And there are people who argue the presidency impacts far more lives than a pilot. Others say, well, this is like comparing apples and 747s. Pilots face physical, split-second calls. The president has layers of oversight and aides and leads a whole huge team. As for the science, I told you we wouldn't just do the politics on this. There is data that, as we all know, older people tend to decline physically, but those who do make it, who are living to older ages and staying active, there is evidence that the brain continues to evolve. Some brain functions can even improve. And there's research on this smaller subset of the people in power. And here it shows the limits of just comparing Pelosi, McConnell, and Trump or Biden to your favorite Grandma Shirley. And by the way, hi to Grandma Shirley, but there are differences, it turns out. We've all seen those visual comparisons of the young candidate Obama and presidents aging before our eyes by the end, but that's not a medical exam. Indeed, while the job might seem stressful and hair color changes, the limited data on people who get those big jobs and then have all the perks for life that others do not, from security to health care, well, they may correlate with some data that shows former presidents tend to live longer than other people, and that while age itself is a significant risk factor for cognitive decline, that does not mean that you can make a one-to-one, that risk is something the voters have to weigh. Risk, as we all know, means the rising risk or probability that something happens, not a one-to-one like, oh, you expire after some preordained age. There may not be one answer to how the people who make it to these posts will ultimately fare. For many Biden fans, they seem to be now, as this really is heating up, you can ignore it if you want, but this is the news, so we don't ignore things. They seem to, in the Democratic Party, want to walk a line between facing these questions with some confidence and also invoking the benefits of experience to argue Biden has learned things but is not washed out. As Drake once explained on the benefits of his time in the game, I'm never washed, but I'm not new. I know I said I'm in the top 5, but I'm top 2. And I'm not 2. Drake invoking not new as a good thing, as a positive edge. He's not new in the game. And by the way, in the last race, Biden was not just top 2. He was not 2, going number 1. Drake and Biden, when you're not 2, you're 1. It was by being not 2 that Biden pushed Trump into that loser position. And he's eyeing doing it again if they both ultimately wage these campaigns next year. So that's part of the counterargument, while Democrats are eyeing, some of them, an alternative to Biden for all ranges of reasons. I wanted to break this down with you because it's out there and it's interesting to actually look at both the politics and the facts. We can do that together.